Hey everyone, welcome to our new video series here. A lot of our squadrons have been locked down, and I wanted to make sure that we still have individuals still have access to good AE material over the next coming weeks and possibly even a few months here. So with that, we have a brand new video series. My name is Bob Roberts. I am with the South Carolina Greenville Squadron. I am the AEO for that squadron, also the Group 3 AEO. So here's our new video series. So listen, so we've got a couple of goals for the video series. First of all, starting next Monday, from the time this is being recorded, which is going to be Monday, March 23rd at 7 o'clock, we are hoping to go live. I really want you guys to be able to reach out and post in the live chat, get interaction with me, with the other members in CAP. If we get other civilians that are involved in the videos, it'd be great too. And in addition to the live streams, again, hopefully starting next week, we are going to be recording videos. Those recorded videos are going to be focused more on the Dimensions books to help you study and take a chance during the absence of squadron meetings to learn from those Dimensions books, help you get ahead a little bit. And more importantly, what I want you to tell me what you want. Send me your requests. What do you want to see? You can post down in the chat down below, and we will work on that. We really are going to take a long look over the next couple of weeks to see what focus we want to go. We're going to be spending some time and effort in building a new studio. This is right now just kind of like where my desk is, so lighting isn't the best. So that's we're going to be working on that. If you have any suggestions, if you're involved in YouTube videos and content creation, if you have any suggestions, please feel free. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Send them my way. And we're going to continue to do these videos for as long as the squadrons are not meeting. Our goal is just to keep our momentum moving forward, especially in the world of aerospace education. So here's how the videos are going to work. So when we do the live stream, it's going to be the same thing. So we're going to start off with some housekeeping discussion, basically letting you know what we are going to be doing and how we are operating, if there is any changes to the videos, what you can expect, as well as when you can expect these videos. After we do a little bit of housekeeping, hopefully it'll only be a few minutes, then we're going to go into the current events, what has happened over the last week in the world of aerospace. And then finally, we're going to move on to our actual aerospace education lesson. We are also going to really try hard to include a hands-on activities for you. It's obviously pretty difficult to do if most of us aren't at school, we're not coming into squadrons. It's going to be really difficult to do some of the hands-ons, but we're really going to try hard to put together some lessons that you can build and make things based on the supplies that you have in your house. So here's what I need from you. I need your suggestions. What do you want to learn about? I've already got a list of some really great topics, but I really want to hear from you. Please place your comments in the suggestion box down below. If you're a member of the Greenville Squadron, or if you're part of the South Carolina Wing, and you wanted to make a comment, feel free, send me an email onto my address for Wing. If you don't know what that is, you're not a member of the squadron, then please just go ahead and put it down below in the suggestion box. Also, if anybody's good with graphic design, you're going to notice, especially the first couple of videos here, we're not going to have a ton of fancy graphics or intro music. I think I found a nice little Air Force intro song, orchestra song that I think I'm going to use for this video. But we really don't have any type of graphics yet. If you're somebody that really enjoys working with graphic designs, really good at it, please feel free, reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. Maybe we can get some of your stuff, put it up online. And lastly, we'd like to spread the word to your CAP members. If this is something that you think is valuable, please go ahead and, as they say on YouTube all the time, like down below, and spread the word. Hopefully hopefully, we're going to get everybody back to their squadrons for meetings pretty soon. But we don't know how long this is going to be. And then even after the meetings resume, I still plan on doing recorded lessons where we're going to go through the dimensions modules. So my hope is that you all get benefit from that, and other CAP members will get benefit from that. So with that, that's all I had for housekeeping. Again, if I didn't mention already, my name is Lieutenant Bob Roberts with the Greenville Squadron. And with that, let's look at what's in the news. I had a couple of things in the news I thought that were interesting this week that don't have anything to do with coronavirus. The first was that NASA removed the Lunar Gateway from its critical path. So for those that don't know, we'll put a picture up here. The Lunar Gateway is a spacecraft that was going to basically be in orbit around the moon, and it was going to help with habitats and research and design, preparing our way for additional individuals going to the moon. Kind of a stepping stone for getting some lessons learned for our mission to Mars. So as of this week, NASA has just announced that they're actually going to take that Lunar Gateway away from the critical path to getting people back to the moon. I kind of have a little bit of a mixed feeling about that. I think it'd be really kind of cool to have a space station going around the moon, but I want to see some people get their feet dirty on the moon surface. And I really believe that is just a jumping point for us to get to Mars. The next thing that happened this week was we had an unfortunate failure. We had a failure of China's new Long March 7A rocket. And we don't know why it failed. The rocket itself actually did lift off nominally. People hear the word nominally, that's space jargon for it went good. So what anybody could tell, the rocket did launch good. However, it didn't make it high enough to actually put the satellite into orbit. So therefore, it's a failure. Its job was to put a satellite into orbit, not just to launch and look pretty. It wasn't able to get that satellite in orbit. Therefore, the mission was a failure. So even with that and the coronavirus, China is still looking at an additional 40 launches across 2020. So you're looking at, give or take, 3 to 4 launches on average a month. That is pretty significant. That's if they can hit 40 launches, that's wonderful. So this might be a small setback for China, but it won't be anything that they can't overcome. Now, we actually did have a SpaceX mission that did not go this week as well. SpaceX had a Starlink launch, and I can tell you I am greatly looking forward to Starlink. It's just going to be wonderful. If you're interested in hearing more about Starlink, what Starlink is, how it's going to work, there's a ton of videos up on the internet on it. If you would like to hear my take on it, go ahead, let me know down in the suggestions down below. So Starlink, thankfully though, it just scrubbed. It got down to T-0, and then it had an error code in its software, and it just shut itself down at T-0. So there was no problems with the craft, no problems with the payload. So they're going to get that figured out, and they're going to get that thing back up into the air. And coronavirus. So we can't have this first video without talking about coronavirus. So coronavirus is moving much of the space industry into a work from home position. A lot of the individuals that would be working out of offices at NASA, at JPL, at ESA, overseas, they're all starting to work from home. Not really sure yet what that's going to mean for our upcoming space missions. Just time's going to have to tell on that one. One thing that's going to be interesting is we can obviously tell that travel is taking a big hit during this whole coronavirus outbreak. And it was announced today, we actually heard from Donald Trump, President Trump today, that they are going to help bail out the airlines. I think, I'm not going to get into politics on these videos, that's probably the right move. The virus wasn't their fault, so we want to probably try to help them out, because as soon as this outbreak is over, I have a feeling everyone's going to be locked in their houses for a little too long, and we are all going to want to get out and go on vacations and go travel, and airlines are probably going to get really busy once all this is figured out. Okay, with that, let's switch over to our lesson for the week. All right, so our lesson for the week is keeping it clean. All right, so in science fiction, it always seems like the aliens are always coming down. They're always coming after us. And what we need to be prepared for is the fact that it's probably not going to be the case. Unless you have been attacked by an alien, chances are we don't have to worry too much about aliens coming down to the Earth to attack us. Now, what we really need to worry about, though, is us attacking other planets. And how do we attack other planets? I mean, are we sending, a B-52 bomber, to Mars? Of course, that's not the case, right? So the way that we are attacking other places is our microbes, right? So we have viruses, we have bacteria, and we have anything that might stow away on our spacecraft. Those could go to another planet. And so those could find homes in other planets. We don't know how they would act. We want to make sure that we do everything we can to make sure that we don't put and infect basically a planet. So with that, I want you to take a close look at this picture. I want you to see if you can see the Martian life form. Do you see it? How about now? Well, let me zoom in for you. There he is. There's the Martian. So no, that's obviously not what we're worried about. What we're worried about is this. We want to make sure that bacteria, viruses, this is some bacteria that was grown in a culture. We want to make sure that this stuff doesn't end up on our spacecraft and get all the way to, say, Mars or even to other planets. We do have spacecraft that we launch that plow into planets, plow in to asteroids, and we want to make sure that we're not actually sending life there and starting to populate bacteria. We don't know how it would react. There's a good chance that it probably wouldn't grow on some of these planets, on most of these planets, but we don't know. It could. You never know. So the one thing I do want to talk about is some of our microbes, right? We have two main types of microbes that we worry about when we send missions to other areas and planets, and that's bacteria and viruses. Now, here's a picture. We can see what a bacteria might look like and what a virus might look like. Now, in this picture, we're seeing them at the same size, but in truth, a virus is about 10 times smaller than a bacteria. So the bacteria, is relatively this big, and a virus would be pretty small. So it's because a virus is so small, it's actually really hard. You need microscopes, and even for bacteria, you need microscopes unless it's growing in a colony, and that's actually why we call it microbes. So it's microscope. You can't see it without a microscope. So here we can see some of the ways that a bacteria and a virus might look different. And then, a lot of times people wonder, well, what's the difference? If I'm feeling sick, how do I know? Do I have a virus or do I have, a bacteria? And so Minnesota came out with a pretty nice little chart. We're going to steal that here. Thank you, Minnesota, for putting this together. And so, viruses are smart particles, and they actually get inside your body cell. So your cells are floating around, and the viruses will actually penetrate your cells. So when we talked about the coronavirus isn't actually a living organism per se itself. It's actually a small particulate that actually will go into your cell, but the virus has enough information, enough DNA information to actually replicate inside your cell and turn your cell against you. So we have to be really careful of those. Now, again, viruses, they take many shapes and sizes, and many of them are much smaller than bacteria. So the viruses that cause diseases such as a common cold, if you get a sinus infection, good chance that's a virus. If you get bronchitis, if you heard of somebody getting bronchitis, that's usually a virus. And so typically the body fights the viral infections by producing a fever, so the body gets hot. Viruses don't like being hot. And so that will be one reason why if your body's running 103 degree fever, 104 degree, really hot, 104 degree fever, that's why. It's trying to burn out the virus. It's trying to make the body so that the body isn't a good host for the virus. We want to try to make our bodies as unpalatable as we can to the virus. And then we'll have inflammation. Now, antibiotic, you'll often hear about antibiotics. You'll hear about antibiotic hand washing. Antibiotics have nothing to do with viruses. They don't kill viruses. They have no attack to a virus. Now, that being said, if you had antibacterial hand gel, then what this does have is this has alcohol in it. Approximately, in this case, this is 62% alcohol, and the number 60% is actually pretty important. So the CDC says that anything that has more than 60% alcohol, the alcohol can actually break down the walls of the virus, and that will actually help clean the virus from your hands. So if you have any of the virus on your hands are actually, we're gonna talk about this later, but your hands are actually very thick. The skin is actually a really good glove for your body. A lot of viruses can't penetrate into the hand. And so what you do is you want to use this on your hand. If you put this on your hand, you rub it really good until it's dry, then that will kill the cell walls of the virus. And so if you didn't use this, the virus would sit on your hands, and then, as you may even notice during this video, people touch their face all the time. And you don't want to touch your face, because if you touch your face, that's where the virus, that's how the virus gets into your body. You'll either breathe it in, or it'll go through your eyes. And viruses, again, as we talked before, you get nasal issues, bronchitis. It's more respiratory. Okay, so that's a virus. So what's a bacteria? All right, so a bacteria is a one-celled organism. And it can look like a ball, it can look like a long rod, and they're everywhere. Bacteria is literally everywhere. It's in our food, it's in the dirt, it's in your clothes, it's on your bodies. You can't get rid of this stuff. It's everywhere. So most bacteria are good. You wouldn't be able to eat very much food if we didn't have bacteria in our stomachs. A lot of times what we'll do for bacteria is they can cause strep throat. And the body fights bacteria by producing a fever again. Again, we want to raise the body's temperature, make it so that bacteria can't live well with us. And the symptoms of bacterial infections are very similar to those caused by a viral infection. Bacterial infections usually need to be treated by antibiotic. This is where actually an antibiotic does help you. And if you take antibiotics for a couple of days, it'll help break down into the blood, and hopefully you'll start feeling better. And I do want to mention I am not a medical doctor. So if somebody's out there thinking to themselves, he's got it wrong, feel free to go ahead and post that in the suggestions in the comments down below, and we'll probably put a correction out. But this is the information that we've got. Now, so let's take a look at why being sick in space, or not being sick in space, is super important. So what do you think would happen if you threw up while you're on a spacewalk? So let's say you're this astronaut here. What would happen if you threw up right there? Well, here's a couple things. You could very possibly cover your face shield. So first of all, moving past the fact that, yeah, it's disgusting, you just threw up in your helmet. But the very real problem is, one, you might have just covered the glass. You might not be able to see with your eyes where you're going. Also, in a bigger issue, now usually people go out with more than one person on a spacewalk. So if you covered your visor, your buddy that's on a spacewalk with you, they might be able to come over and lead you back into the spacecraft. So and then they'd probably make fun of you for the next 20 years They'd probably have a picture of it probably hanging on the wall somewhere in NASA. But more importantly, if you threw up a lot in your space helmet, well, it's in your helmet. Your mouth is down here. You could be swallowing it. You could choke on it. You could make it so you couldn't breathe. It's not a situation on the Earth where you can just kind of clean your mouth off or, throw up in a bucket. You can't open that visor in space. That's a bad idea. So what we want to do is you really need to make sure that the astronauts don't get sick in space. So this I thought was interesting. Here is actually a microbe that we have found that can live in space. So this is actually called a water bear, and it can survive in space. So people will think, well, hey, if we get microbes on the outside of the spacecraft, not a big deal, because in the vacuum of space, the cold of space, this stuff's just going to die. So by the time we got to another planet, it wouldn't be there anymore. And that's actually not true. The water bear is a good example of this. It basically can freeze itself in space. And when you take it to a planet and it warms back up, it reanimates. It just comes right back alive. And so we need to make sure as much as we can that viruses and microbes don't get on the spacecraft in the first place. So what do we do? So how do we protect our spacecraft? So the first thing we do is we have clean rooms. So a clean room will have special filters and special procedures for making sure that dust, allergens, microbes, not even stuff that's alive, things like thread from your shirt. Maybe if you're working on a super advanced telescope and you get a piece of thread from your shirt hits that lens, you may have significantly damaged that telescope, the resolution of that telescope up in space. So we need to make sure that the rooms that we're building the spacecraft on are as clean as we can possibly make them. So again, particulates, dust, vaporized particles, airborne organisms like viruses and bacteria, and as well as the workers themselves. So the workers actually wear clean suits. So the clean suits will limit the amount of skin cells, the amount of hair that you have from entering the work area, as well as you want to wear a mask. A lot of the bacteria and viruses that come into the air are actually from our mouths. So when we're breathing out bacteria. And so we want to make sure that when we're working on the spacecraft, that we're not breathing our bacteria and our viruses and our moisture and everything else onto the spacecraft themselves. So this became very evident in 1998. So in 1998, we sent astronauts to the Russian space station Mir. And so we wanted to take a look to see how bacteria and viruses affected the space station. And what they found was pretty amazing. It was actually, to be honest with you, it was pretty disgusting. And the space station for Mir is not very large. It's much smaller than the International Space Station. As you can see here, it's not really all that much bigger than the space shuttle. And they had people that would live here for years. And so what they found was when they took apart panels, they found mold. So they found mold that was literally living on electrical connectors. And so your parents, or as you well may know, mold is really bad for humans, especially depending on the type of mold. It can be very toxic for a human being. It can make you sick. Even though these spacecraft went up clean, there was still enough to grow over time. And the other thing they found that was actually really nasty is they found a ball of water. So since you're in space, it's not like water just settles on a surface. The water will form a ball. There's no gravity to flatten it out. And so they found behind one of the panels, they found literally a ball of black, disgusting, nasty water. So this kind of was an eye-opener. And so those issues can harm and kill a crew, or they can cause a failure on the spacecraft themselves. So there have been even launches of spacecraft that have failed because there was particulates or growing bacteria that were in lines, fuel lines. And so it actually would cause a failure of the spacecraft. We had in the U.S., we had a Mars rover. This is a long time ago. We had a Mars mission that was going to go, and they scrubbed the mission because they found bacteria on the Mars rover. That Mars rover came back to be cleaned. And we had other missions to go to Mars. That Mars rover ended up never flying. It ended up never going to Mars because of the bacteria and the debris that they found before they launched it. So here's also the deal. So as much as we have been talking about the actual spacecraft, now we got to turn our attention to the actual people. Because let's be honest, you and I, we're dirty. We're dirty people. We can take a nice hot shower and we can come out, and I guarantee you, we're still dirty people. So it's super important to look at how we clean ourselves. So, and just imagine, most of us, we have had parents, or we have parents that tell us all the time, hey, go clean your room. Go clean your room. And we sit there and we're like, oh, all right, I'll clean my room. And then we don't clean our room, right? It stays nasty. So we can't do that, right? So mirrors, space station mirrors taught us that a good portion of the time that the astronauts are on the spacecraft or the International Space Station, they have to clean. So if you ever get yourself, when you get older, and there's a mission to Mars, and you're one of our astronauts, guess what? A lot of your time going to Mars is going to be preoccupied by cleaning the spacecraft. Wiping down all the surfaces, making sure you're as clean as possible. So here's a picture of a couple of astronauts cleaning themselves. They tend to use rinse-free shampoos, so you just basically rub it in, and then you take a towel and you can wipe it off. And they have ways to extract the liquid, because there's no water wasted up in space. Every drop is precious. So they have ways of extracting the water from the towels. So this is pretty fun. So, all right, I want to finish tonight's lesson by talking about how can we protect ourselves from the bacteria and viruses. Obviously, this is our first recorded lesson. We're doing this because of the coronavirus. So obviously that was why I wanted to have this lesson tonight. So, you're going to hear this, if you haven't already heard this 10 million times, you're going to hear this 10 more million times over the next couple of weeks, months. And the first thing is, wash your hands. They recommend 20 seconds to wash your hands. And usually they say if you sing the happy birthday song twice. Personally, I think that's probably going to get boring really fast. So maybe find some additional songs you might want to sing. If you have any CAP Jody songs you think that work well, go ahead and let the other CAP members down below. Maybe we can do CAP Jody songs while we're marching songs while we're scrubbing our hands. And so one of the reasons, so with the virus, with the scrubbing of the hands helps to do is it actually helps to tear apart the virus. It's a physical breakdown of the virus. And then you mix that with the soap, grabs it into the soap, and it washes away. So the reason you can't just do it fast and do it light is you really want to really break it down. So take your time with it. Really, beat it up. Beat up the virus. And so that's really the first thing you want to do. That's the most important thing you can be doing. When you come to your house, your friends come to your house, tell them, don't let them touch anything. Tell them to go wash their hands first. They may not have any infection whatsoever, but they may have come they may have touched something that did. And so you want to make sure, again, the hands have everything. We touch everything. We touch our face. We touch everything with our hands. So you want to keep those hands as clean as possible. All right. Number 2, don't touch your face. I know we've mentioned it a few times. Don't touch your face. I think it would be amazing if you actually could record your day and you saw how many times you probably touch your face, so you're not even realizing it. So as I mentioned earlier in the lesson, your skin does a really good job of not letting viruses and bacteria into your system. These are designed to not allow that, basically. So Now, when you bring your hands up to your face, they're going to be by your mouth, they're going to be by your eyes, they're going to be by your nose. It's going to be by areas that can breathe in all the junk that's on your hands. So what you have to do is you have to make sure there's no junk on your hands. Number 3, don't touch other people. So everybody's so used to shaking somebody's hands, we don't want to shake hands. Nobody will take offense for the foreseeable future. Don't shake hands. Give them a little elbow bump, wave to them. Other CAP members, if you're in Squadrons, you can give them a little salute. Just don't shake hands. You don't want to risk taking any germs that they have and putting it into your hand. You don't want to risk any germs that you may have picked up touching something and then touching their hands. So that's important. Number 4, alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Where did I put it? There it is. All right. So we talked about this before. As of right now, this is actually really hard to get. So hopefully they'll be coming out with more of this stuff. Now, this is primarily made to kill germs, not viruses. But with the coronavirus and with a lot of other viruses, the walls of the virus itself is susceptible to alcohol. And so these have a high enough percentage of alcohol. You want something with over 60%. This has 62%. And so the alcohol will break down the virus chemically, as opposed to when we wash our hands with soap, we're doing it physically. We're physically tearing apart the virus. With this, we're using the chemistry of alcohol with the virus's membranes, wall membrane. So when this becomes more available, you want to get this stuff. But this is not more important than washing your hands. Washing your hands is more important than this. This is for when you're out and about and you can't wash your hands easily. Also, something that's important to know. Some stores are selling disinfectant wipes. Especially if you're around, today is March 16th. If you're around the March 16th time frame and you see a whole shelf with disinfectant wipes, chances are they're not going to affect the virus. Otherwise, some people would have already bought them. I actually wish, I saw at Home Depot, I saw a shelf right when you walked in of disinfectant wipes. And I wanted to put a sign up because I took a look at the wipes and they didn't have any alcohol in them. And I wanted to take that, and I would have liked to have put a sign up there saying, will not kill coronavirus. Because I bet you a lot of people are buying those wipes thinking that they'll help protect themselves, and they won't. So you really want to make sure that when you buy a disinfectant, take a look at the back and look at the contents, and you should see it saying alcohol. You want something with more than 60%. Okay? All right, 5th and the last one, social distancing. A lot of people have been making fun of this one, but hey, listen, if somebody's got a disease, a virus, bacteria next to you, keeping some space between you and them is kind of like a force field, The stuff's not going to get to you. I mean, unless they went there and really coughed hardcore at you. That barrier is a good barrier for it not to interact with you. Now, depending on the air, the virus might float in the air for a little bit and you could walk through it. You can't see it, so you just kind of got to still live your life. But you don't want to be so close to somebody that their normal breath is just emanating around them. So that's really important. All right, so we do want to have a hands-on. It's our first video. I will want to do hands-on as much as I possibly can with you guys. And so here's our hands-on for tonight. Since it's hard to buy this stuff, if you can't get this, I want you to go make some. So here's how you make it. It's really simple. You can get isopropyl alcohol. Ask your parents, or if you're a senior member, you probably already have this stuff in your house. And you want it to be 91%. Some isopropyl alcohol is around 70%, give or take. You want the 91% stuff. Because what you're going to do is you're going to take 2 cups of that alcohol, mix it with 1 cup of your favorite aloe vera gel. Now, some people like to add a little bit of essential oils, something to give it a smell, a little bit of a fragrance, a little bit of a perfume. I wouldn't do a ton of it because if you're cleaning your hands a lot, your hands are going to smell like perfume. But a lot of people are, they do add essential oils into it. And then what you're going to do is you're slowly going to add just a couple of drops at a time of water until you can get it to the consistency that you would like. Take that, and then now you have basically 3 cups of hand sanitizer when you can't buy it at the store. So that's always a good thing. And then you can put it into a small little pump, or if you got these little vials, you can still get these everywhere. And then now you have some of your own scented sanitizer. So that is your hands-on lesson for your hands-on assignment for today. If you make any hand sanitizer, feel free, post a picture of what you made. I think that would be fun. If you want to be a little different, I wouldn't put any coloring dye. I saw somebody, they made theirs red so they could tell theirs from somebody else, and then they ended up with red hands. So it was really kind of funny, to be honest with you. But they thought they were being cool, and it just didn't end up being cool. So go ahead, make your own hand sanitizer. And that is it for our lesson tonight. I want to thank everybody who's watched so far. Go ahead. If you have any questions or if you have any comments or suggestions, go ahead and put them down in the comment section down below. If you have, if you're part of the South Carolina wing, or you're part of my squadron here in Greenville, South Carolina, feel free to shoot me a call. Give me a call, shoot me a message, shoot me an email, and let me know what you think. I'm looking for more suggestions on how to make things better. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm actually going to be working on a studio space in my basement. So we're going to try to make this a little bit nicer looking, nicer sounding. Hopefully it sounded good to you all. Hopefully I got a little bit of lighting over here. So hopefully the lighting looks a little bit okay. And with that, I want to thank everybody and keep clean, and we'll see you around. Thanks so much. Have a good one.